Hi, I'm Michael Depp, editor of TV News Check, and I'm with Brian Weiss with Tegna, and we are talking TV. Hi, Brian. Good to see you.
Michael, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And Brian is the president and the GM of Tegna's multicast networks. We're going to be talking about Diginets in just a moment. And later in the same podcast, I'm going to be with Evan Moore, who is the VP of Commerce Partnerships at NBC Universal. And Evan and I are going to be talking about the NBCU's 121 event for developers that they held earlier this week and the advent of shoppable television and the implications for local TV in that. I want to remind everyone watching that this podcast is also available in most places that you get your audio podcast, so you can listen that way as well. So, Brian, thanks a lot for being here again. And we were talking a few weeks ago because Tegna is adding a new Diginet, a third one. It already has True Crime Network and Quest. And now later this spring, we will see the coming of Twist, which is skewed to women and younger women. The demo is what's the age bracket we're targeting here?
Well, let's say we're targeting all women. I would say, generally speaking, we are looking for a 25 to 55 audience, generally speaking.
Okay, so 25 to 55. And that struck me because when I think about Diginets, I think about going into my grandmother's care home, and every set is tuned to one of them somewhere along the way with lots of nostalgia or niche TV. And I think about a very much older, aging demographic there. So the fact that now not just Tegna, but EW Scripps recently announced some shifts to its strategy, and certainly it's very bullish on its Diginets and pulling in this younger demographic. This seems, I don't know if counterintuitive is correct, but it definitely, I mean, obviously you're seeing that there's growth in this demographic with Diginet. So where is that coming from? What are you seeing? What data is suggesting to you that you should be targeting in this direction?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of my job is to challenge people's perceptions about over-the-air television, because absolutely, if you would have looked at the data maybe 10 years ago when the digital switchover happened from analog, really the population that was watching over-the-air television was probably borderline elderly, maybe not even borderline. And you still had people using, the metal rabbit ears and a very clunky experience. A very old audience that was watching black and white television, watching really old movies. But I think that there's been a really big shift that's happened over the last 10 years, but definitely over the last 5 years, where as more programmers have gotten into the marketplace, have created effectively the proxy of what are cable networks for the over-the-air audience. You've seen just a lot of newcomers coming in, and that may be partially because if you build it, they will come. And it may be partially because folks are ditching the cable bundle, or they're just core nevers. They graduate college and never see the need to have a cable subscription. But we're skating where the puck is going with our networks. So we look at all of our Nielsen data. We've noticed over time that the, let's call it the middle audiences, not necessarily the 18 to 24, but kind of in that 25 to 55 range, that we've grown our audience on both True Crime and Quest in that audience range. We do surveys where we poll our audience about what shows they like. We've noticed generally speaking, more from that medium, that middle age group coming to us as opposed to the elderly audience. And when we look at other research reports out there, we're noticing that there's a quickening of pace in terms of younger audiences coming. So I'll just give you one example. There was a Horowitz research report that came out just at the tail end of 2020. And the Horowitz research report indicated that a couple groups, notably Black audiences, Hispanic audiences, and specifically 18 to 34-year-olds, massive increases among those audiences in use of antenna television. Specifically, that 18 to 34-year-old group grew from 20% usage to 42% usage. That is, a seismic shift. That's more than doubling in just 1 year the number of 18 to 34-year-olds using this type of content. Now, I want to clarify one thing. Twist will skew younger. It will not appeal to the youngest crowds out there who are probably more so using their smartphones. Maybe they're going to use antenna television to occasionally get breaking news or a sporting event, that sort of thing that's live. But we really do think that 25 to 55-year-old audience, which is growing on over-the-air television, and word is getting out that you have so many options at your disposal. We think that's a really nice sweet spot, a place that we can, skate where the puck is going. We think that's going to perform really well for us.
So Scripps has created this sort of neologism called self-bundling to describe this phenomenon of cord cutters and cord nevers who are taking a small group of SVOD subscription services that they're paying for in streaming and pairing that with the experience of now picking up acculturating to several Diginet channels that might be in there, or one or two some bits and bobs from over the air. Is that a relevant term, do you think? Is that a real phenomenon of self-bundling that these people maybe they don't think of themselves that way, but that is in fact their behavior?
Yes, I think it's hard to ignore. It's definitely a trend that's happening and growing. I should add that being a company guy as part of Tegna, subscription fees from MVPD partners make up an enormous part of Tegna's revenue, and will continue to do so for probably the next decade. So we very much believe that cable is a very important part of the ecosystem. It still is the majority of where people get their television, especially from Tegna's core product, which is the station group. But yeah, we generally think that there is a growing group of folks that get enough television from their SVOD, from their AVOD, and from over-the-air antenna. And if you combine it all, if you're not a passionate television watcher, you can probably get away with having that as a bundle. And I think that's probably driving, in large part, a lot of the growth. One part that I would just add to that is, we're seeing, when we see reports on the number of people that use an antenna, about 20% of the country uses an antenna as their primary method of getting television. And by the way, that's doubled since 2015. So it's a really nice growth pattern. But in addition to that, we also have data from Nielsen and from others that jives with it, that about 40% of the country has at least one antenna. So that might be in a second bedroom or in a basement, or they may use it to tailgate, whatever they're using it for. We think that's a really good trend for my part of the business, because obviously people are becoming just more aware generally that there's a lot of channels that you can get, and they can get it for relatively cheap, maybe $15 or $20 for a cheap over-the-air antenna on Amazon or Walmart.
Yeah, except those antennas can be awful. I mean, I have one in my house, and watching a football game sometimes it's pixelating a lot. Now mine is a few years old. Is that not an uphill battle somewhat to try to get more? I mean, it's sort of amazing that this many people have antennas. When you have to go, it's another accessory. You've got to get you can't just take the TV out of the box. So, I mean, do you see that? I guess, is that momentum continuing to go forward? And doesn't that kind of defy a little bit of credulity to you?
It certainly causes friction, and that's the word I would use, friction. I don't know that it's necessarily an uphill battle, because when I think about how many people experience our networks in a given month, for instance, the True Crime Network has more than 6 million people that experience it for some amount of time every single month. And that's 6 million people, or really 6 million households, I should say, that took the time to adjust their antenna, to get it in just the right place, to make sure that there's not too much static or vibration that would cause the picture to pixelate. And so if that many people are getting it, what it really says to me is that people are willing to put in the effort to get this product, right? Michael, to your point, absolutely, there are challenges with over-the-air antennas, especially in markets that have interesting topography, that have lots of trees, lots of mountains. That type of thing is definitely a battle for us, as opposed to really flat areas, especially in the Midwest. We get great coverage there. What we're finding is that consumers are doing a couple things. They're getting educated on where to position their antenna, how to position their antenna, some of the clunky, cumbersome stuff. We're seeing a lot more people report to us that they use an outdoor rooftop antenna, which may not be realistic for everybody. But if you're somebody that has been a cable consumer, or a satellite dish consumer where you already are used to having a device on the outside of your home. It may only cost you, let's call it $150 or $200 to install an over-the-air antenna, in a non-obtrusive place, outside your home. Lots of professionals do it at this point, the same type of people that would install your satellite dish. And that's equivalent to about 1 month of their cable subscription. From then on, they have no fees and they get all these channels piped into their home for totally free. So we're seeing really good growth there, but it definitely is a friction point. I would also add that Tegna and a lot of our broadcast our broadcast peers are going out of our way to address this problem with signal improvements where we can. We're limited by what the FCC allows in terms of our contours and that sort of thing. But I can tell you that engineers at Tegna, and I'm fairly confident at the other partners, are really working on this idea of optimizing our signal strength so that everyone can view it.
Okay. So lastly, the streaming facet of this. I'm wondering, first of all, with the programming for Twist that you're going to launch, are you simultaneously acquiring the streaming rights for that? And with the two other networks, do you have streaming channels now in place for those? And how important of a front is that for a Diginet? Besides being over the air, how much do you need to plant the flag on streaming as well?
Yeah, we do think it's important. It is of growing importance, though still a very small part of our overall business, especially revenue-wise. What we do is we have in July of 2020, we rebranded what was the Justice Network to True Crime Network. And roughly at the same time, we launched the True Crime Network streaming app. The idea was to create this brand new brand that was all encompassing on every platform that you'd want to be, that married a lot of what you would see on the True Crime Network with an on-demand experience that you can get on Roku, on Fire, on Apple TV and mobile. That has seen enormous growth since we launched it last summer. It continues to grow every single month in double-digit per month percentage growth. So we're really excited about the trajectory of where it could go. I would note that OTT is the Wild West still, both in terms of the technicals, just making sure that the pipes work properly, but also in terms of revenue optimization, making sure that you're filling what could be an unlimited amount of impressions. And so we're kind of massaging those things, making sure that those are operating correctly. It is profitable, our streaming service right now, and we will look eventually to add streaming complements to both Quest and Twist. We want to make sure that we have the True Crime Network really humming, and it's pretty close to doing so right now. To answer your question about streaming rights, we typically get them as bolt-ons to what we pay for the linear rights. So we're it's no secret that we're paying license fees to our content partners to get the content for our on-air product, and for the most part, now bundling in OTT rights as either a throw-in or for a nominal upcharge, because I think everybody is aware that while OTT may be a small part of all of our future, it right now represents really pennies on the dollar versus the larger opportunity that linear provides. But yes, it is part of our long-term future.
And would the goal down the road be having what we see on the streaming apps mirror what's on the television, also having a live stream, a quote unquote live stream? A lot of people, even though of course it's not live, that idea of live, like what's on now? Here's my VOD menu, but what's on now? Even though now may be a manufactured construct there, people like it. They're drawn to that on streaming. Is that a goal to have that in place as well as just the VOD menu?
Well, first, Michael, let me just applaud you for that take, because so many of my peers in the industry really believe that video on demand is, the ability of choice is what the consumer really wants. And while I do think that Netflix and Hulu and all those services have trained us to believe that, you are correct that the broad majority of people really want to watch television in a linear fashion. And so to your point, we do hope to create a linear streaming complement once we have enough rights to do so. Right now, for the True Crime Network in specific, we probably have OTT rights for about a third, roughly about a third of our content that we have on the linear network. And so we can't replicate it in that way. As we go forward, we are including OTT rights basically as a mandatory give when we license content, so that we can have the option to create linear complements and be able to put them on, whether it's, a Samsung device or Pluto, something like that. That is a goal for us. I would not say it is the near-term focus, but it is something that we do hope to do, because we agree that linear, whether it's linear on broadcast or digilinear, as I like to call it, that will be the primary way that our content, which is often wallpaper programming, not necessarily always destination programming, is consumed.
Okay. All right, Brian. Well, Twist coming later this spring. Thanks very much for being here today.
Thanks. Really appreciate it, Michael.
So I'm very happy to welcome with me Evan Moore. He is the VP of Commerce Partnerships at NBC Universal. NBCU had an event this week called 121 on Monday. This was the first of its kind event. Evan, can you explain what the function, what the purpose of what was of this event?
Sure. So 121 is really a first of its kind, a developer conference where NBC Universal, together with Sky and Comcast, is approaching our partners, both our retail and advertising partners, along with our technology partners, and presenting ourselves as both a media company, but also a technology company. And explaining all of the different capabilities that we have to build together with our partners around both media and technology.
Well, so how do you see yourselves as a technology company? In what way?
So in a lot of different ways. Within my world as the head of commerce partnerships, we have a whole suite of integrated commerce capabilities underneath the helm of One Platform Commerce. It's a whole technology platform that enables us to actually work together with partners, including retail partners, consumer goods brands, and other technology partners to drive shoppable experiences in the context of NBCU content across our entire ecosystem, wherever that content appears, including linear, digital, social, streaming, through content, through ads, and to do that in a way that lets those retail partners put up a storefront in front of our audiences and drive scale and drive commerce at scale.
So is this out in the marketplace to any degree right now, or is this all something that's forthcoming?
Yeah, so NBC Universal Checkout is one of our primary products, along with Shoppable TV. And NBC Universal Checkout is an embeddable universal shopping cart and commerce engine that enables us to turn any content experience into a natively shoppable experience. And then Shoppable TV is our usage of a Shoppable TV code to drive users from linear programming by scanning a code on their phone into a transactable experience. We've been out with Shoppable TV since 2019 and have been activating through both content and commercials very successfully over the course of the last year and a half. And then with NBC Universal Checkout, we actually first rolled out to audiences back in August of 2020 with the Sci-Fi Channel doing an actual hour-long shoppable TV show on Sci-Fi Channel called Sci-Fi After Dark that was really innovative and great. And then we've expanded from there across the rest of the portfolio, going live with about a half dozen different properties in NBCU's portfolio in Q4 of 2020 in a partnership with PayPal, where they actually were a key sponsor of our holiday gift guide series that we published that were all shoppable, and then also a number of integrations into linear programming with them as well. And this year we're expanding across even more parts of the NBCU portfolio, including our own television station group, and bringing our shoppable experiences to other platforms and channels like Peacock and Instagram and Facebook. Okay,
so what faces the viewer on linear TV at least is a QR code. I mean, that's, you hold your phone up to the TV, scan that QR code, takes you in. Obviously, I imagine on linear platforms, it's a hyperlink that's going to, sorry, on digital platforms rather, it's a link that's going to take you to these experiences. So a few things about this. I mean, obviously this is a new channel for monetization. It's a new way of taking advertising in a creative, more interactive direction. But as you're integrating this into programming and commercial, especially on the programming side, and especially on the programming linear side, you're watching videos and QR codes are going to start popping up. How is this not going to be an irritating experience for a viewer?
So a couple things. The first thing I'll say is that content has been inspiring commerce for decades, right? For hundreds of years. since the invention of television, television shows have been inspiring people to go out and discover new products and new brands. But really, until just now, it's been up to the consumer to figure out how to find that item that they're seeing in a show, or how to pick up that brand that they've just been exposed to as a result of some content they're consuming. And so what we're really trying to do is really just flatten that conversion funnel and drive that transaction as close to the moment of inspiration as possible. And so far, QR codes and the shoppable TV code in general has proven itself as a fairly non-obtrusive way to programming with really high response rates, especially in the pandemic, as QR codes have become more common in everyday life. The QR codes are technology that's been around for 20 years, and all of a sudden it's finally having its day. And the response rates we get from activations via the shoppable TV code are just fantastic, without any sort of reported hit to consumer satisfaction with the show that they're watching. I think there's been a lot of previous work with bugs and lower third graphics to where there's a consumer expectation that sort of thing is going to happen. But I'll say, looking forward, we're not just stopping with the shoppable TV code or thinking that's the end of how we can deliver value here. When I look at streaming platforms, especially, I get really excited because there's a burgeoning new user behavior around interactivity with content through streaming. It's kind of a small thing today, but on any streaming platform, that if you pause a scene, you're going to be able to find out more information about that scene, like the actors that are in that scene, or maybe the location where it was filmed, or the music that might be going on. And we're going to be expanding that with our Explore feature on Peacock and exposing commerce moments there as well. So if you're watching
sort of like the X-ray screen that pops up,
that's right.
And you can, which is integrated, I think, to maybe IMDb or something on Amazon, or where you get.
And that's super powerful, right? Like, it seems small, but that is interactive television at scale in a way that consumers find value from, right? And how can we use commerce not just to drive incremental monetization, but to provide more depth to the content experience, where you can bring into your home the things that you're seeing on your screen and adopt the behaviors and lifestyles that you're aspiring to from the content that you consume.
So is it sort of the most, so on a streaming iteration, for instance, how this may be looking going forward, would that be, so if I pause, I'm watching a show, I pause it, a screen kind of comes into view at that point, showing me some things about the content itself, maybe about the actors, but then maybe there's a product that's been placed in the background and I get something there. What is that, realistically speaking, next year? So what do you see that looking like? How would it be a screen that's kind of superimposed over, and would it have everything in one X-ray view, or would it be a layered kind of, you switch your view?
Yeah, I don't want to get too ahead of the Peacock team in terms of speaking to their user interfaces that they're building, but it's a really seamless experience where when you've got a scene paused, you can kind of dive deeper and see other elements behind that scene in a really non-obtrusive way to the content itself. You can choose to go into either commerce or to find out more information about the location or the actors. And then from there, there's an interactive experience where you can find out more information about that product and then figure out how to purchase it in a really seamless way directly from what you're seeing on Peacock there. And it's a great way to discover all sorts of things, whether it's your favorite jersey from an athlete on Premier League soccer, or if it's a piece of furniture that's being featured in your favorite scripted show on Telemundo. Those are all things that we can work together with our brand partners and not just integrate them into the content, but actually make it into a moment where users can bring that product home.
So for the NBCU stations then, and this is going to iterate all the way to their level, how so? Both on the programming, if at all, like the local programming side, and on the commercial side.
That's right. So we're partnering with the entire own television station group and bringing the whole suite of integrated commerce capabilities to their 12 NBC local city sites, the 23 Telemundo affiliates, in the 23 affiliate sites, and then the additional networks as well, and then the 7 regional sports networks, so that they can activate through both their content, right, by creating shoppable moments in the programming that they produce or in the lifestyle programming that they create. They have great shows like Open House or Torch to Rescue, where they're actually doing home improvement or solving problems for consumers that really organically lend themselves to being shoppable moments as well. And then anytime that there's lifestyle programming, like across the LX network, that's a great opportunity where you can provide informative content, making recommendations about trends or solutions for the home that just organically lend themselves to being shoppable moments as well. And then on top of that, we have a whole suite of advertising products in commercial time or integrations into programming as sponsorships that can then be made not just into a brand marketing opportunity, but one that drives the consumer down that purchase funnel and actually drives a transaction. And I think, the important insight for us within the advertising space is that for too long, the market has been approached as if there's some channels that are brand marketing and some channels that are, performance marketing, and that you really need to go to one channel to address a certain part of the funnel. When the reality is that your audience is at every part of the funnel at any time that you're reaching them, right? And your ad product needs to serve wherever your audience is, wherever that individual member is in their journey of consideration and transaction on that offer.
So these new ad products, would they be, do you see like a local car dealership or a personal injury attorney having an inroad here?
Absolutely. So, with Shoppable TV, it's not just relegated to retail. Like that's one of the primary use cases for sure. But I think that there's other sorts of conversions that you can drive through that sort of a transactional experience. In auto, especially, we've actually in the past already worked with some auto advertisers to drive sign up for test drives. And that works really effectively within a local market, as you can imagine, with dealerships. And I think DR, or direct response, is a dirty word, right? But that's really where local advertisers have played for so long. And now we're bringing these integrated capabilities where they can really see the response from their audience in real time and see actual measurable conversion from their linear advertising in a way that's really been mostly just a part of other channels like performance marketing channels.
How soon are these new advertising products going to be available in local markets?
We're going to be expanding into some of the local markets as soon as Q2 of this year, and then expanding across the rest over the course of Q2 and Q3, hopefully having the entire footprint in place by the time we get into Q4.
And what about for the sellers of these? What's the complexity like? This is getting into, they're used to selling spots on TV. Digital was complicated. OTT was like blowing some people's minds. So when you're talking about this stuff, there's an incredible sophistication, it would seem, and maybe some recalcitrance on the part of some of the sellers.
So I've got to tell you, I've been extremely impressed. I've been communicating and working with the OTS team for almost 2 years now, almost from the beginning when I joined NBC. And up until just recently, most of the sellers I've been interacting with have been national sellers. And I've been super impressed with the digital savvy of the local selling team. I think they actually really understand being connected to the KPIs that are more common to digital campaigns from their position of being local sellers than national sellers actually are. So I think they actually have a leg up on selling these products into these advertisers, or really speaking to these products that drive this direct performance over national advertisers that are much more, selling spots and dots.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you think that streaming is going to be the ideal platform for this? Is that sort of better position than perhaps linear might be? Or obviously there's more, you'll get that layer of X-ray screen, but even other digital products like mobile or desktop?
I think that the difference, or the thing that matters is not necessarily whether it's streaming or linear. It matters if it's a connected or addressable environment or not. If it's right. An interactive television environment that the content's being distributed into. I think the jury's still out on what content is actually going to make the most sense for driving shoppable experiences, and whether that content is live or streamed or scripted or reality or library, right? There's so many different things that we can try here. And we're just, I think, at the tip of the iceberg of what is going to be a massive opportunity for decades to come.
Well, it is certainly a brave new world of advertising. No peacock pun intended there. But we'll see how it plays out. Very interesting. Thank you so much, Evan. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Michael. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.